Good afternoon. We're going to talk about getting back to basics in the casting process and things you can do to improve. I've seen tons of posts in Facebook groups, for example, like 3D printing and casting, and talking about casting resins. And everybody think they have resin problems with casting. And in some cases, in fact, they do have resin problems. Uh, Resin casting has a whole set of issues that you have to resolve. But a lot of times when people show their casting systems, I think, geez, you might want to just start with basic best practice. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about cleanliness in the casting process, the idea of laminar flow versus turbulent flow, and hopefully it'll be a informational video that you can get something out of here. So let's look at the right here at the bench. This is a sprue base that just came out of the casting process. And you can see junk falling around in there, and you can see, if I point to it here, you can see little bits of investment stuck around the sprue base inside the ring. Um, and what do you think is going to cast better, that or one that's been scrubbed with a toothbrush? I mean, it's as simple as just prior to sprueing, just take this over, and let's see if Wally will follow me here. Come on, all the way. Oops. Sometimes you got to nudge Wally. Oh, I see. You can't go that far. Here we go. Let's see if this works better. You got me, Wally? Wally's my cute little camera that can follow me around if he tries. There we go. Okay, buddy. Okay, toothbrush. I forgot to get this over here. Let's grab a simple old toothbrush. We're going to run this under just a little bit of flowing water, and we're just going to scrub it out. And then dry it really well, of course. Oh, Wally lost me again. See, I turned my face away from him, and then he thinks that I've disappeared from the room. Okay, come on. There you go. I do love that little robot, though. Oh, you went too far. Come here. There we go. Okay, stick with me here. So now we notice this is much cleaner. Back to this camera so you can see it up close. Now, it is, you can expect, I think, to get better results out of this, but looky here. If we bend this and look at this junk right here, this investment, the cracks in here, all these can be real problematic when you begin the casting process. But there's a really simple solution for this, and I'm going to show you. Just get a little torch going here and just wave a low flame over the top of this, and see how it's going to, for the most part, make this surface the funnel that the metal initially contacts as it's flowing into the mold. It's going to make it a lot smoother, and what I just did is going to seal in those little bits of investment that were stuck in the cracks over there. So that's a good first start. Okay, now we're going to talk about laminar flow. So cut to the laminar. Okay, here we are at the computer desktop, and I want to give you just a little bit of a visual about the difference between laminar flow and turbulent flow in the investment casting process. So let's switch scenes here really quickly, and let's start this video. On the left, we have a good visualization of laminar flow. On the right-hand side, I'll loop this, play it again. We have a good visual representation of turbulent flow. Notice this absence of bubbles over here on the left-hand side. Bubbles translate to porosity. The splashing you get over here, lots of bubbles showing up in this process. Playing it one more time. Keep that image in your mind. Well, what does that mean what does that mean in the sprueing and casting process? It could be simply the difference between a stuck-on sprue, as this example of the left-hand side is, and a filleted sprue connection over here on the right-hand side. You want to get the metal in there as smoothly as possible. Okay, back to the bench top. Okay, we're back at the bench, and now we're just going to do a practical example of the filleting and the smoothing out for laminar flow that we've discussed in previous parts of this video. So let's turn to this camera, and I have the prepared sprue base here, which is much cleaner than when it started. But let's do a sprue attachment. Let's do a sprue attachment first. All right. You know what? A lot of people would be just about satisfied with that the way it is. But you'll notice how I'm filleting this to be more like what we saw on the computer screen. How close can I get here? We've got a little bit of a thing going on right here. Let's fix that. And I like to make my sprue attachments just a little bit taller than some people do, because it's not necessarily the amount of volume of gold behind your casting, but pressure increases with depth. Just like, you know, when your ears pop when you're 15 feet down underneath, doing a dive underneath the water. That's what I'm talking about. And now we're going to make sure this is a very smooth transition from the sprue base into the sprue. So, to recap, clean sprue brace. A lot of times I'll prep it by applying a little bit of heat via torch around this area to make this nice and smooth. And then nice filleted transitions from sprue base to sprue and from sprue to object. All right, basic stuff, best practices. I hope you got something out of this video. It's I do this stuff off the cuff, so I make a lot of silly grammatical errors, and I stumble and I lisp and I do all this stuff. But if you got anything out of it, give it the big thumbs up and please subscribe for additional content. Thank you very much for watching.